Media.
Hello, can I please speak to Jay?
This is Jay. Hi, how are you, Ron?
How's it going, man?
Oh, good timing, man. Thanks so much for calling.
No, thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
It's our pleasure. So you're heading to, where, Thailand soon?
Thailand in 2 days, got to fly out. Yeah, we're going to do a fundraising show for a children's charity as like a pre-bike week thing. Then you're going to play 2 days of bike week and then run down to Bangkok and do something with the U.S. Embassy there, like a sort of a cross-cultural little thing. So yeah, it's going to be a good trip.
That sounds great. Well, I just wanted to, first off, go to the early days. Who were some of those musical artists and inspirations that really, got you going in music and wanted to do this, in your life?
So we're going to go super early.
Oh, we're going to go back to the roots.
Yes, back to the very, very beginning.
Yes.
I was 5 years old, and the Kiss Alive album just came out. And as soon as I heard that, boom, that was it. I knew that's what I wanted to do with my life, and immediately I started working on it. And by the time I was 6, I had a band with the neighborhood kids. We were writing songs. We were making demos using a cassette recorder in the corner of the room. We had our little acoustic guitars playing just like a foot away from it, and the drums were about 10 feet back. That's how we got levels. And then we figured out how to overdub on our own just by, we would record on that, we would play it back facing another cassette recorder, and we would sing along to the played music, and that's how we overdubbed vocals. So we would write, we would record, we would do shows where I would spend the day just cutting up pieces of paper in little cups and give them to the audience, which was just, all our neighbors and everything. And at the end of the last song, they would throw it all up in the air, the homemade confetti, and nothing changed. 30 years later, doing the same thing, writing, recording, only now it's with confetti cannons, shooting confetti at an audience. No one had to cut it up by hand. It was
at the roots of it all, it comes down to some guys in a garage having some fun.
Yeah, and so it was Kiss and the Beatles were my two first musical loves. And from there I started getting into everything that was coming out in the 70s, from all the Ramones and the Sex Pistols to Jethro Tull and Yes and things like that, and then Queen and The Who, then started getting into heavier stuff, all the AC/DC and Judas Priest, and then old school metal started coming out. Remember browsing the record store and seeing the cover of Iron Maiden Killers, like, this looks cool. Took it home and just immediately ran back. I was like, I want all their other albums. What else you got? And I think Made in Japan had just come out, and got the first album. Just hardcore Maiden fan. Manowar, huge Manowar fan. So for me, it was a lot of old school metal, punk, classic rock, and a lot of progressive stuff too. A lot of the British progressive things.
Well, now this is your 10th album. Tell us about making your first album. When you really started going from loving music to actually creating your own music. What was the impetus of that? What really drove you to start making your own?
So when I started getting legit, I think it all started around 1989, where I got a write-up in Guitar Player magazine. And the guy who did the write-up owned a guitar-oriented record label called Shrapnel Records. And we always stayed in touch over the years, and I was doing things with my band, going out and playing around New York City. I started doing on the side just for fun, little instrumental guitar songs and things. And then they started getting on different compilation albums. And then Shrapnel Records offered me a record deal, and I put out my first album 20 years ago. It's called The Adventures of Bumblefoot, and every song was named after a different animal disease. And I was still living at home with Mom and Dad, so I recorded it in the basement with a pair of headphones and 2 ADATs and a Mackie board, and just busted out music.
And how did the name Bumblefoot come about?
The name? Well, it started off as a song. It was, my wife, she's a veterinarian. So now going back a billion years when she was in vet school, and I was helping her study and holding the book open while she's absorbing all this knowledge. And one of the diseases, ulcerative pododermatitis, also known as bumblefoot. I heard that name, and it just cracked me up. I was like, what a silly name for a disease. I think I'm going to write a song called Bumblefoot about a superhero. And from there, the song became the album, and then after the album, got my band up and running again and doing shows, and called the band Bumblefoot. The music was very quirky. It was very Frank Zappa, Faith No More, Primus, Mr. Bungle, System of a Down. It was that kind of thing. So the name definitely fit. And then over the years of putting out Bumblefoot music, it just became more like a nickname.
Sure. Now, obviously, you're known for the fretless guitar too. How did you come about to play that?
So I was on tour in France must have been around '97, and some guy from this French guitar company, Vigier, Vigier, like, hey, check out our guitars. And I was like, look, I build my own guitars, I make my own weird guitars, and I'm not really looking to play anyone else's stuff. He's like, just try it. So I played it, and man, this thing played great. And it played so much better than my guitars did. So we talked, and they were okay with entertaining my wacky guitar ideas of, a flying foot or Swiss cheese guitar or all those things. And they were actually making these fretless guitars, but no one was playing them. They were making them for years, but nobody would touch the thing. So, like, give me one. Why don't you start screwing with this? So that was it. Around 1998, I got a fretless guitar from them, and immediately just started recording and using it. And over time, I just felt that I needed to have access to both, where I can switch from fretted to fretless without having to switch guitars. Because it gets kind of tricky to throw a guitar while your tech is throwing the other guitar at you, and if anyone misses, So I needed it in one guitar so I could not have to switch in 5 seconds from one guitar to another. And we came up with this double neck. And that's been my main guitar now for a good 5 years. It's my, I guess, signature model, you can call it. And that is it. So it was Vigier that were making these things, but I started playing them, and then it became the signature double neck one.
Well, obviously the sound is amazing, but technically, what can you do on the fretless that you can't with the frets?
Well, you have to think of it more like a fretless stringed instrument, like a cello or something like that, where on a guitar, you're working off the frets, so your bending and your vibrato is more of an up and down motion, where on a fretless, it's across the length of the string. On a fretted guitar, you put your finger behind the fret, and the fret gives you the intonated note, where on a fretless, you have to put your finger exactly where the fret would be. So you really need to reshape your fingers on the neck to make chords stay in tune, and notes or anything stay in tune. On a fretted guitar, you would bend a note. On a fretless, you don't bend anything. You just slide to whatever you would normally bend to. So if you were going to bend the string a whole step to the next note, now you would just slide up 2 frets to the next note, or the distance of 2 frets on a fretless. And there's a lot of little things you can do as far as getting chirped harmonics that you can drag to give a different expression to the notes as you slide them. You can get a lot of unique sounds out of it. You can play a lot with dissonance by doing playing unisons but having them slightly off so that the waves clash a little bit and you get a kind of growl in the throat of the note.
Fantastic. Well, obviously, in setting up this new solo album, you've completed an amazing run, with Guns N' Roses. Looking back, what are the highlights for you? Why did you join the band, and what did you get most out of it?
The fans. Getting to know the fans. I feel that I'm going to have friends that that I'll be in touch with for the rest of my life. You meet a lot of good people. I mean, that happens in life anyway, but it wouldn't have happened if we weren't there and connected by those shows and by that music.
Sure. And in the process of making Chinese Democracy, what do you feel is your greatest joy coming off of that?
I like the song Shackler's Revenge. I feel that in that song I played a bigger role, where the fretless soloing and the stuff at the end, the tapping, and when we would play it live, I would be singing the harmonies to the chorus while doing this two-handed tapping thing at the same time. So I felt like I got to do what I do, and it was something that was my own that I was adding to it.
And it brings us to Little Brothers Watching, your 10th album. Tell us about the concept. We all know about Big Brother. What is Little Brother, and why is he watching?
We are Little Brother, and we are always watching between YouTube, everything, just anything that we're doing. There is a smartphone between our eye and what we're looking at, capturing everything. And I think it's something that nobody predicted when they would look at the future. They would think that the government would get stronger and, have this omnipresence about it. And they didn't consider the fact that maybe we would get the technology and we would be watching the government and the police and everybody and each other and ourselves and sharing every bit of humanity and reality with the rest of the world to see whether they like it or not. And it's something that we all live with and we're all aware of, and it's just part of our lives. It's become normal. But no one has actually put it into a song, at least that I haven't heard it done yet. Like, no one has made a song that kind of just says it all. But it's something that we're all aware of, so I just kind of stated the obvious. It's like, here's where we're at. This is our world.
Well, technology's enhanced so many things that we can do, and, we try and remember what we did before the Internet and emails and all that, but obviously it's changed a lot of things, too, not necessarily for the better. How do you feel as far as what are the greatest, joys and sorrows as, technology is moving so fast?
Well, it has everything from a musical, like as a musician, starting with that. It has everything we wished we had 20, 30 years ago. The gatekeepers are no longer, blocking the way for people to get their music out there and connect with the rest of the world. Now anybody can make music and put it out there for the world to listen to. And we have all the options, and we can do anything. Things like FaceTime and Skype. And before that, somebody would go away for a year. They would come back, and their kid would, they missed so much, and the kid won't even remember what they look like. And now everyone could keep in touch and see each other's face. Things like that are so important. What's bad about it is that, our personal privacy can be invaded and can't really stop it. And that's for anybody that happens. That's the downside of the technology. Also, a downside of the technology is that we lose a lot of our accountability and thoughtfulness on how we treat each other because we're not face-to-face. And people will write things and do things that they would not do face-to-face with people. And I think that being face-to-face is a strong character builder, and it keeps you in check, and it keeps you really thinking. It keeps you being thoughtful and considerate, and that gets lost when we're not face-to-face.
I know you've had some interesting collaborations. You had one with DMC from the hip-hop legendary group Run DMC. How did that come about?
Great stuff, yeah. Such wonderful guys. The singer of the middle band, Generation Kill, been on him for a long time, and he was doing this that middle collaboration with DMC. Generation Kill and DMC, and they were looking for a producer, and it didn't happen. And after I was getting involved, and it grew from there to adding some guitar tracks as well. So we had one song done called Lot Lizard. Nasty song. It turned out great, and everyone is just enjoying the hell out of it. We're having a great time doing this stuff. So I'm laying some guitar, I'm doing the mixes and the production. Yeah. Having a blast.
Yeah, and the Art of Anarchy. I know you go back with the brothers John and Vince Vada, and you're joined by Disturbed bassist John Moyer. Tell us about that project.
So that started a couple of years ago. John and Vince have been producing them for the last 18 years, all their different musical endeavors that they've had. And they started a company and wanted first thing they put out to be this supergroup album where they get a bunch of people together. So their songs that they wrote, and then I added my guitar, and we did it all in my studio. I produced that too. John Moyer came in, kicked ass on the bass, as he always does. And then as we started reaching out to singers, Scott came on board, and he did the whole album, did it fantastic. And it's all about the music, this thing. It's more of a music, it's an album. What happens from there is going to happen organically. Scott wants to focus on his solo stuff, his new album, Blaster, and he's got a tour coming up for that. And that's going to kick ass. And from there, if there is any demand for Art of Anarchy to do any shows once the album comes out, depending on how the world likes it or doesn't like it, it should be out, the album, around May or June. And at least that's the plan. And if we do shows, we'll start checking out singers and see what happens from there and see what the future holds. But the first step of it all is putting out this album that we all did together.
Well, it's amazing legacy you've already built with your 10th solo album here, Little Brothers Watching, all these side projects, your incredible run not only with DMC, but also the legacy with your tenure here in Guns N' Roses. What advice do you give to the young guitarists, the young bands, young creative people today? The business has changed a lot, but it still matters, that someone has a unique talent and they persevere. What advice can you give to those coming up to learn the business and have a shot at a long career like yourself?
Well, first, you need to make music that is honest, has integrity, that truly expresses who you are, and don't write for any other reason than that. Everything that you do should have honor with it. That's very important, and it's sometimes hard to do, but you need to retain that and keep that and stay focused on doing it for the love of music. And if you're doing it to get laid, if you're doing it to get rich, if you're doing it to get famous, if you're doing it for any of that stuff, you should do something else. Because all you're doing is being corrupt. So most importantly is that. Just stay focused on your love of music and expressing that love and sharing it with people and paying forward what you got from the people that did the same for you with their music. So that is first and foremost. And then after that, the world will decide how much business you do and what direction that goes. I mean, all you can do is put it out there to share with the world, but the world is going to let you know if they like it or not, if they want to see you live, if they want to collaborate with you. Well, however they want to respond to it is up to them. And just take it from there and listen to the world. Listen to what they tell you. Consider it. Consider what they tell you. And as the business develops
do as much of it as you can on your own, wear every hat, learn how to do every job that there is to do, that you truly understand the role of the people that at some point you might be hiring to do this for you when you run out of time to do it all yourself. And be very cautious of the manipulators and the opportunists that are going to be whispering in your ear to try and acquire you as their own asset and take you away from everything, like from all your other connections that are going to try and get you to disconnect from everyone else and keep you all for themselves. Those people are very dangerous, and there's a whole lot of them, and have a good eye for it and be careful with that, and don't let them sink their claws in too deep.
Well, our guest has been Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Thank you so much. We look forward to Little Brothers Watching and an incredible solo career and all your future collaborations.
Thank you so much. It was great chatting with you.